Hi, my name is Caitlin, and I aggressively believe that all students should have a fair and responsible amount of sexual education before being able to leave school. Now, imagine you're 15, sitting in an overpacked room of other 15-year-olds. Half of them are too timid to look up from their desks, and the other half are misinformed and super obnoxious about it, making everyone else even more nervous. And all of these students are sitting before a teacher who would be much more comfortable telling you to run laps and blowing a whistle in your face than telling you about the accurate parts of the penis and the vagina. So instead, he just says, never use them, and class is closed. This is not a responsible way to teach human beings about the human body, with all of its positives and negatives that come along with your responsibility to your own and the others that you affect. Students need comprehensive sexual education. Physical education teachers alone are typically not equipped to handle questions and concerns related to the human body and all of its complexities. I once had to fight with a teacher who was trying to tell the class that Plan B worked for every person with a vagina, when there's a clear weight limit that affects its effectiveness for all people. The teacher then had to Google the answer on a screen in front of the entire class just to prove me right. A 17-year-old against a sexual education teacher? Now, if all math and English classes are mandated, then why don't we mandate sex ed classes? Or accurate science classes for that matter. I'm pretty sure that you'll have way more questions about your body as an adult than you will about buying 17 watermelons and sharing half with Billy down the street. When two people mature with wildly varying degrees of sexual knowledge, it can be very dangerous. Certain things can get easily lost in translation, like the spreading of STDs and STIs, and the pivotal importance of consent, which leads to deviant sexual misconduct, particularly while under the influences of drugs and alcohol, which they don't really know about because they weren't properly taught in sex ed class. This brings up the argument of those things should be taught in the home. The fact of the matter is, most parents are not as well educated as, well, sexual educators would be on matters of the human body. So leaving it up to their discretion to teach their child can leave children with little more knowledge about their body than, well, sometimes women bleed, and boys will be boys. And here's the thing, even when parents vehemently oppose the teaching of sex ed to their children, it doesn't really stop them from growing up with a human body and wanting to know more about themselves and their sexual urges. They're going to want to explore those urges. We can either let them go in blind or arm them with the knowledge to keep themselves and their partners safe. This needs to be taught in school to give every child the fighting chance to get to know their own body and get to protect themselves. And you know what? This goes double for children with mental deficiencies like Down syndrome and autism. Many parents and gym teachers alike are too embarrassed to even discuss simple things like showering frequently and wearing deodorant. In my own hometown, students with special needs were shuffled into a classroom and told to draw pictures because the physical education teacher that they had felt uncomfortable. Meanwhile, it was their teacher that had to sit down a 17-year-old girl to teach her about showering frequently, body odor, and the use of deodorant. So, if it's not being taught in the home, and it's not being taught in school, where are kids supposed to learn these very important questions about their bodies? Don't just take it from me either. It's the kids who really want to learn about this. When I was in high school, it was a friend of mine who was appalled by the state of his sex ed book. He spent his entire summer petitioning for new, correct sex ed because he knew that LGBT students weren't being taught to correctly, and matters of all people's bodies weren't being addressed. It took months of planning, writing letters, configuring expenses, and meetings with officials to get this done, all with the help of his classmates and the student council. Kids want this. Kids need this. They want to be informed. We can't just give them a smartphone and say, Google it, because the internet isn't always right. And to leave it up to a 15-year-old to just explore the entirety of the internet to learn about their body is dangerous. We all know the joke about WebMD telling you have cancer for everything, but how's a child going to know that that's just a joke? How? The only way to ensure that kids grow up sexually safe in society is to ensure that they grow up with the knowledge to handle sexual situations for themselves and for others. The best way to do that is to go out and demand that schools across the countries teach smart, safe, and accurate sex education. And we shouldn't just leave it up to the kids. It's up to you and me and every other adult. So let's go out and demand for education to be taught.